I had the chance to watch episodes 1 through 8 of Maul Shadowlord already, and to describe it in one word, it's dark. You might be asking yourself though, is the show good? Is it worth me sitting down and watching it? And most of all, how does it compare to other Star Wars animation projects? Well, in this video, I'm going to answer all those questions and more while keeping it 100% spoiler free, so you don't have to worry about spoilers here. Anyway, let's get right into it. As I just mentioned, I had the chance to watch the first 8 episodes of the show early, which is most of the season. However, the thing that I'll say straight out the gate is that we've never seen a Star Wars animation project like this before. We've seen dark moments in Star Wars before, right? Fives' arc in the Clone Wars, the Umbara arc, Siege of Mandalore, the list goes on and on. But what Maul Shadowlord brings to the table is unlike anything we've ever seen. See, as I watch all 8 episodes, I can truthfully say that I was clinging to the edge of my seat each and every episode. On top of that, it felt as if every episode only got better as the show progressed. The stakes only got higher and things got more and more brutal as the episodes went on. For years, fans have always wanted an R-rated Star Wars project, and I think the closest we've gotten to that were a few scenes in the Kenobi show and Vader's hallway scene in Rogue One. However, Maul Shadowlord takes it up a notch. This show, in my opinion, is the closest thing to an R-rated Star Wars project that we've ever gotten. It's dark, it has brutal moments, and it shows a side to Maul that we've never really seen before. As you might know already, Maul Shadowlord follows Maul's life just about a year after the events of Order 66. The Empire has risen in power, there's tyranny spread across the galaxy, and Maul's kind of in a new place and position that he's never really been before. He's different. We see a different side to him. A more mature, poised, and calm side in a way. Back in season 5 of the Clone Wars, he was just bloodthirsty for revenge. He was obsessed with Kenobi, he was obsessed with basically anyone who crossed his path. He was obsessed with it. It consumed him. But now, things are a bit different. Now fast forwarding to Maul in this new show, it's like he sees the galaxy from a different perspective, and we see this whole different side to him that we've just never seen. Sam Witwer himself, who voices Maul, even said that this show is a perfect bridge between when we last saw him in the Clone Wars to later on when we see him in Solo and Rebels. It's kind of like a middle point in a way. And the best part is, Sam also mentioned that you don't have to watch any previous Star Wars projects to appreciate this show. He shared that you don't really need to know anything about Star Wars or Maul to enjoy the show, and after watching it, I can fully agree with him. Shadowlord is approached in a way where you can appreciate Maul's character and the new ones without any previous knowledge of anything, really. Obviously it helps, but for fans that don't have time to watch all the previous projects, it's a nice way to make them feel included. Speaking of characters, it's not only Maul you become invested into in this show. In it, there's so many other characters that you start to care for and root for over time. I feel like Andor also did a good job of that. Obviously, Cassian's journey was the main storyline, but over time you started to really care about everyone else's stories, like Mon Mothma, Kleya, and even Dedra. That's what Maul Shadowlord brings as well, just in animation. While it's Maul's show at the end of the day, you might find yourself pretty locked into the other characters as well over time, because that's what happened with me. However, one thing I really want to speak about is the animation. Shadowlord brings a style of animation that we've never really seen in Star Wars before. A lot of the characters are definitely similar to that crisp, late Clone Wars and Bad Batch animation, but it's also meshed with a brand new canvas artwork style. At times when I watched this, it felt like I was watching a painting moving or something like that, and it was pretty cool. Obviously, we've never seen this before, so it's definitely a fresh new perspective to Star Wars animation. As you've probably seen in the trailers, Maul looks better than ever, and I think you'll be really pleased with how he looks in action with this new animation. Which now enters my next point, the lightsaber duels. I can't remember the last time we've seen this many lightsaber duels like we do in Shadowlord, and I think that's something many fans will enjoy. I won't get into too much detail because of course this is a spoiler-free review, but the saber duels are intense, and if you love seeing Maul in combat in the Clone Wars, you'll absolutely love this show. Now, one thing I will say is that while this show is dark, mature, and intense, there are some elements that really make it feel like Star Wars. Just like so many other projects, I feel like the subtle humor of certain characters is really what makes so many of the films and shows so much fun, and Shadowlord brings that. Just like the films, there's moments that just make you laugh, and I'm glad this show incorporates that in some ways. Now, like I mentioned, I personally think Shadowlord is one of the more mature shows we've gotten in Star Wars, just like Andor, but there are moments that make you smile, chuckle, and dare I say, even make you feel emotional. That all while keeping that dark and gritty approach to the show. Now, one thing I really want to discuss is one of my personal favorite elements to the show, and that's that it really honors George Lucas's vision. For those that don't know, George Lucas originally had sequel trilogy plans for episodes 7, 8, and 9, and Maul was going to be the main villain of those films. He was going to be a crime boss, he was going to be ruthless, brutal, and it was going to be dark. Now, as for Maul Shadowlord, it takes inspiration from that villain-like approach for Maul, and you really feel it when you watch it. Director Dave Filoni himself even shared that he had some talks with George over the years and what his plans for Maul had been, so taking that into consideration, he really honored that vision for Shadowlord. This is really cool in my opinion, since we never got to see those films, so this is the way we can all through Maul's show. Now, I do want to touch on something important. One thing that many fans have been talking about and speculating about is whether or not Maul will turn into a good guy in the show. And well, since Sam Witwer himself already spoke about this, I do have the freedom to share this with you, and the answer is no. He's a bad guy, yes, but now he's in a position where he's fighting up against worse guys, which is the Empire. According to Sam Witwer, he says that out of a bad guy scale of 10, Palpatine is a 10 of 10. Vader is like a 9.7 of 10, and Maul is like an 8.6 of 10. I think that's pretty accurate considering their villainy scales. So while many fans were worried that Maul would turn into the good guy in this show, that's far from the case. Now on top of that, the cast for Shadow Lord is absolutely phenomenal. Of course, as we mentioned, Sam Witwer did voice Maul, and his performance is next level. Like he's done in countless projects, he absolutely killed it, and it's really cool to see him take this new, mature approach with the character. Every time Maul had a scene or even spoke, I just found myself getting excited, like I was a kid again watching the Clone Wars when those episodes would be released on TV. Sam brings such an incredible element to this character, and in my opinion, his voice acting in this show might just be one of his best performances yet. On top of Maul though, we also get introduced to some other characters that were already announced, like Devon Azara, who's a young Jedi Padawan, and she's voiced by Gideon Adlon. Devon is another character I became really invested into, and without spoiling anything, I started to really enjoy her storyline more and more as the episodes went on. On top of that, we also see the return of Rook Cass in the show, who is one of Maul's loyal Mandalorians from the Clone Wars. Rook is voiced by Vanessa Marshall, who also voiced Hera in the show Star Wars Rebels, and she also does an amazing job. However, speaking of characters, something I found most intriguing was the development of two Inquisitors that we've seen in other projects. The first brother, or also known as Marok, and also the 11th brother, or also known as the Crow. These two characters popped up in a few different Star Wars projects over the years, and we even saw their deaths. But seeing them in Shadow Lord is on a whole nother level. This show gives them a more fleshed out story, and we get a bit of perspective to who they were before their eventual deaths. Throughout the series, they made the Inquisitors appear ruthless, deadly, and sometimes when I was watching, I had to stop myself because I was like, wait, am I watching a horror film right now or something? Like I mentioned, it's a dark and mature show. I've personally never seen anything like it in Star Wars animation, and I really mean that in the best way possible. I've watched the majority of Star Wars animation projects that have come out over the years, and I would say that Shadow Lord is on par with the later seasons of the Clone Wars for me. Now I know I have 2 more episodes left to watch, but I would probably say that this show is probably my favorite Star Wars animation project that we've ever gotten. From the visuals, to the characters, and even the incredible music done by the Kiners, Kevin Kiner, Sean Kiner, and Deanna Kiner, they absolutely nailed it, and they really made Shadow Lord special. The Kiners have done some amazing music in the past, and they've worked on projects like The Bad Batch, Clone Wars, Rebels, and even Ahsoka. Through the music, I feel like they bring a lot of scenes to life, and we can all agree, Star Wars isn't Star Wars without the music. Now, one thing I really want to touch on is the release schedule for the show. In total, there's 10 episodes, and Star Wars will be releasing them 2 times a week. On April 6th, we'll get The Dark Revenge and Sinister Schemes. On April 13th, we'll get Whispers in the Unknown and Pride and Vengeance. On April 20th, we'll get Inquisition and Night of the Hunted. On April 27th, we'll get Call to the Oblivion and The Creeping Fear. Then finally on May the 4th, we'll get Strange Allies in the finale. Now, I have seen that some fans have critiqued this format, mainly because they want the season to go as long as possible, which really isn't a bad thing. However, in my personal opinion, after watching episodes 1 through 8, I can honestly say that the 2 episodes per week was probably the best decision they could make. Each episode is around the length of a Clone Wars episode, which is like 22 to 25 minutes or so. So by having 2 a week, it kind of gives us close to an hour of weekly content. And I will say they did a really good job connecting the episodes to make it feel like it's a new adventure every time you watch. The only complaint I really have is that I wish there was more. I'm already 8 episodes in, and I'm kind of bummed that I only have 2 episodes left to go after this. Personally, I think they did a great job with these first 8, and I really hope we get a future season 2 down the road. I feel like from the events of Shadow Lord all up until Solo, there's a lot of stories to cover, and a lot to explore, mainly since that's an 8-year gap. With Star Wars animation, I feel they have the freedom to take as many risks as they like, and really go for it. So I hope we see more of that down the road. That's what they've already done with Maul over the years, and we can all agree that he's been one of the most fleshed out characters in all of Star Wars. He went from barely speaking in The Phantom Menace to having a crucial role in the Clone Wars and Rebels, to now even having his own show. Before Shadow Lord, Maul was always one of my favorite Sith, but after seeing different sides to his character within this story, it makes me respect his journey and character even more. But with that, that concludes our spoiler-free review of Maul Shadow Lord, but I want to know from you. Are you excited for the show, and what are some things you hope to see within the series? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you always.